Does altering our genes make us less human? What about patients with chronic pain disorders having access to assisted suicide? Should our genome be public information? How do we pick and choose who gets access to new life-saving biotechnology? Should people know what unpreventable genetic diseases they will develop and possibly pass on to their offspring? The world of life sciences is moving fast, and when a path is not clear for a patient or when principles are in conflict, this is when bioethics are essential. So what is bioethics? Bioethics comes from the Greek words bios, meaning life, and ethos, meaning moral character. Bioethics is the application of the principles of ethics to the field of medicine and healthcare. In particular, bioethics is concerned with the ethical issues that arise from the emergence and development in the life sciences. This includes issues like abortion, euthanasia, suicide, human cloning, contraception, organ donation, transplantation, artificial insemination, genetic engineering, and allocation of healthcare resources. Dr. Melissa McCraden is a bioethicist with the Department of Bioethics at the Hospital for Sick Children in Toronto. She has a PhD in neuroscience and a Master's of Health Science in bioethics. Dr. McCraden says that bioethics are so important because, quote, in medicine, we often have situations where there is no right answer. There are always different values at play between the clinical team, parents, patients, and society, unquote. She says she was really drawn to bioethics because it combines science, medicine, law, and philosophy with the goal of helping people through some of the most difficult situations. Dr. McCraden's role in the hospital as a bioethicist includes doing things like consultations, research, policy, and education. Today, contemporary bioethicists make use of a variety of different theories to address the morality of an ethical issue. This includes theories like utilitarianism, Kantianism, virtue ethics, and ethics of care. Utilitarianism focuses on actions that maximize happiness and well-being for all affected individuals. The basic idea behind utilitarianism is to, in some sense, maximize utility, or to prevent the happening of mischief, pain, evil, or unhappiness to the party whose interests is considered. An example of utilitarianism applied to the medical field is in renal failure patients, the further your condition is, the more urgent you will receive dialysis. This goes off the idea that it is more right to accept certain patients if it will overall prevent the most suffering. Kantian ethics, founded by Immanuel Kant, revolves entirely around duty rather than emotions or end goals. It emphasizes the principles behind actions rather than an action's result. A good example of applied Kantian ethics is abortion. Kantian ethics argues that abortion is immoral because it treats the human person as a means rather than an end. Virtue ethics is a framework that focuses on character of the moral agent rather than the rightness of an action. It considers the relationship, emotional sensitivities, and motivations that are unique to human society. Sometimes in medicine, a patient can choose to reject a doctor's guidance, like refusing treatment. Even though the doctor knows it may adversely affect their well-being, doctors are trained to tolerate such uncertainty and risks because they have respect for a patient's moral character. Ethics of care is a feminist perspective that uses a rational and context-bound approach toward mortality and decision-making. Ethics of care is most commonly used by nurses, where there is one person caring and one being cared for. The one caring feels and senses what the cared for is experiencing and initiates a commitment to help. Today, bioethics are possibly more important than ever before. With the rapid growth of advanced biotechnology, such as the cutting-edge genome editing tool CRISPR-Cas9, also comes the rise of important ethical questions that are becoming increasingly urgent to answer. Some question whether altering human genes means playing God, and if that is morally sound. And if gene therapy in human is acceptable to cure diseases, where do you draw the line? Some genetic diseases virtually warrant premature death, while others put you at a high risk but don't guarantee that you will even get the disease. Others lie somewhere in between. So how do we determine a hard limit for who gets treatment? Scholars and policymakers have been wrestling with these questions for years, and at the moment, some ideas are protected by the Universal Declaration on the Human Genome and Human Rights. For example, in Article 4, where it states the human genome in its natural state shall not give rise to financial gains, or in Article 5e, where it outlines the idea of consent, and in Article 7, it outlines the confidentiality of your genome. And in Article 12a, it states benefits from advances in biology, genetics, and medicine concerning the human genome shall be made available to all with due regard for the dignity and human rights of each individual. In the future, biotech could also contribute greatly to wealth inequality, which is already a huge issue in modern society. Gene surgery and treatment will no doubt be expensive. For example, Novartis plans to charge $475,000 for a one-time treatment of their recently approved cancer therapy, a drug that that has rescued people from certain death. Even the idea of designer babies can lead to a permanent underclass of people who cannot afford genetic enhancement. Dr. McCradden says that, to her, one of the biggest concerns in bioethics today is not incorporating diverse perspectives into new technological issues. She says, quote, learning from our colleagues who represent minoritized viewpoints and bringing these lessons into practice will strengthen us all and the field more generally. A recent initiative called the Genome Project, right, has the goal of synthesizing an entire human's genome from chemical building blocks within the next 10 years. Bioethicists say that to create a human genome from scratch would be an enormous moral gesture, and are concerned it will be used to make children with no biological parents, or to recreate the genome of another human. Big ideas like these raise even bigger moral questions, and as far as we can tell, biological advances show no sign of slowing down, and bioethics will be an imperative aspect of the future of biology. It will hopefully help us decipher what's right and what is wrong.